Hello and welcome to the El Monitor podcast, Reading the Middle East with Gilles Kepel, where each month we take a deep dive with authors and thought leaders who are shaping the way we think about this complex and dynamic region. I'm your host, Gilles Kepel, and today we're recording from the library of Institut du Monde Arabe, the Institute of the Arab World in Paris. My guest today is Zineb Mekouar, who had just published a book in French entitled La Poule et son Cumin, literally The Hen and its Cumin, translating from the Moroccan Darija, or local language, Adjaja Bikmunha. Before we hear Zineb on the significance of this intriguing title, let us say a few words to introduce you to our viewers. You were born in Morocco from a family that traced back to the Andalus immigrants who settled in Fez after the 15th century Reconquista from Spain. Then you were schooled at the French Lycée Lyautey in Casablanca, and finally you came to Paris as a student. You attended Sciences Po, and then you started to work as a consultant. You even joined the Macron campaign team for his first election as president in 2017. And finally, you decided, fortunately for us, to devote your time to writing fiction. The book we are discussing today, your first, was shortlisted in France as one of the best first novels of 2022. It was heavily praised by Tahar Benjelloun, one of the most famous French-Moroccan writers, and you just came back from a book tour which took you all around Morocco. Zineb Mekouar's fascinating novel, which we hope will be soon translated into English after Arabic and Italian, focused on the story of two young girls and then two young women. On the one hand, an orphaned youngster belonging to the old and somewhat marginalized ruling class of the kingdom, and on the other hand, her maid of the same age. In the complex relationship between mistress and servants, the novel weaves the social fabric of today's Morocco, which is also seen through the prism of immigration to France. It's a multi-layered clash of cultures which reaches deep down into intimacy, especially in the case of women, given the way Moroccan and French societies are intertwined in a one-of-a-kind love-hate relationship. Dear Zineb, marhaba bik, bienvenue. Welcome to Reading the Middle East on El Monitor here at the Institut du Monde Arabe in Paris.
Hello, dear Gilles, and thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here in this amazing place, and I'm very glad to have the chance to discuss my novel with you and all your listeners.
Thank you very much. So let's begin with the title of your book, Adjaja Bikmunha, The Hen and its Cumin. Could you translate that for our Anglophone readers as to have your cake and eat it too? Is that what you mean? What did you exactly mean with that?
Yes, it's exactly that. Actually, it's a Moroccan expression because I wanted to show the real Morocco, the one that cannot be showed when you just go as a tourist there, because it's about the intimacy of women and of the youth of Morocco. It's a nod to the folk culture, and the Moroccan people, they love it because when they see it in French, they translate it in Darija, the Moroccan Arabic, and they laugh because they understand it. And the people who don't speak Darija, who don't know the expression, they're very happy too, because when they finally get to understand the expression throughout the book, they're like, oh, yes, now I know what it is. So actually, everyone is happy. So and me too.
Which is great for a reader and an author, of course. And cumin is, of course, one of the special species and spices of the Moroccan cuisine.
Yeah, one of the main spices in every tagine or plate. Even here in France, when we go to a restaurant, we have salt and pepper. In Morocco, we have salt and cumin. Yes.
Okay, so let's put a little cumin on your novel. It depicts the parallel, though intersecting, lives of a young mistress and her same-age servant in present-day Moroccan society. It is torn between a very strong, resilient, traditional fabric that you just mentioned when you evoke the traditional cuisine, something which does not exist anymore and to such an extent in the other North African countries such as Algeria and Tunisia, for instance. And on the other hand, this rather traditional society is taken into a fast-paced modernizing process. But as was the case, for instance, in the antebellum United States, the social class barriers are challenged by the intimacy of people in the houses, and all the more so in the case of women, and that is what you portray. Could you update us and let us penetrate into this atmosphere?
Yes, exactly. This novel is about the class struggle. It's about nowadays Morocco, and we see, thanks to the main characters, Kenza and Fatiha, this social imbalance. Kenza is the daughter of a family that is rich and famous, and Fatiha is the maid's daughter. But throughout the book, we see that there is a social progression, because Fatiha is not a maid anymore. After that, she becomes a nurse. She's not a doctor, but well, there is this social rigidity is kind of being undermined. And what is important also in this novel is that there is a friendship, and this friendship transcends somehow this rigidity. It's cyclical. There is sometimes Kenza is more powerful in this friendship than Fatiha. Sometimes it's the contrary. So what's interesting is to show how humanity or strong feelings like friendship and love can or not transcend this social rigidity.
Yeah, and they are challenged because, for instance, when Fatiha goes to study at college, she would have liked to be a doctor, but Kenza's grandfather, we discover, was the one who phoned the president of the university, say, no, the maid should not be a doctor, let her become a nurse.
Yeah, so it's this kind of things are violent, difficult, but they can be real, but they are changing. And my point with this novel is not to judge anyone or to say it's good or it's bad. It's just to show a photography of Morocco and the complexity of changing also, because lots of people want this to change, but it takes time and struggle.
They want to have the hen and its cumin.
Jajab Kamuna, yes, we understand the expression at the end of the book.
So you do not shy away in your book from a depiction of sexual relations where issues of power and gender inequality are worded in a straightforward language, something which was frowned upon by some of your readers and Moroccan critics, as I could see on the social networks. In particular, you show how the young maids become despised sexual objects in your novel for the male predators who, on the other hand, court the maids' mistresses whose virginity remains, on the contrary, a taboo. It's a main issue of social and religious shame or haram. Could you tell us more about that, and also how was that issue and the way you deal with it in your book both perceived and discussed during your very recent Moroccan book tour, because you're just back from an all Morocco tour of your book?
The maybe the most helpful advice I had while writing my book was do not let the self-censorship takes you away. Actually, I come from a culture where there is this hshuma, this social shame, so it was hard for me. But I tried to do it, to not self-censor myself. And I think it's maybe that's why the novel is very authentic and shows interesting things, because I wanted to show the frustration and the all this social shuma, shame, and also the regressive laws that are in Morocco, and that they don't let the youth break free. And lots of people want this to change. I'm not the only one. I'm not the first one. Now, just the last elections, the Islamists lost by far. Now the new Minister of Justice wants this law, this regressive law, to change. Lots of people from the civil society want it too. So I think lots of people now don't want to be to work with this hypocrisy. So I come from I just came back from Morocco from this tour. Sincerely, it was amazing because I didn't expect anything. I was like, well, I'm going and I'll see. But many people came to me and told me, thank you for saying or for writing what everyone thinks. And one of the best moments was in Rabat, the capital. And there was a young woman, 17 years old. She did like, she came from another city, and she told me, thank you for this novel. Now it's my favorite, and I want to break free too. And I love it, so I'm gonna take it for the presentation of the baccalaureate, so the A-level exam, and I was very moved because that's what I wanted to maybe to touch the sensibility, the intimacy of each Moroccan woman or man.
Actually, I was introduced to your book by a friend, a Moroccan friend who lives in France and who identified entirely with your main character, because it depicted, she is older than you are, but it depicted what she had gone through, even in Morocco and in her France. Coming to France, because France is described in your novel as a sort of two-way street. On the one hand, it is a free Western society where your student character in your book, Kenza, leads a sentimental life where the social boundaries that she had known in Morocco before have been totally overcome. Though, on the other hand, she discovers when she arrives in this country that part of the Moroccan immigrants with whom she is socialized upon her arrival have adopted, in contrast with French society, a harsh, fundamentalist, Islamist lifestyle to keep France and its corrupt influence at bay, while some others have created their own mix of popular cultures and speak some sort of French Arabic backslang that your heroine hardly understands and doesn't have much attraction to.
So my main character, Kenza, as a lot of Moroccan elite, is programmed to love France. When she's in Morocco, she's in a French school. She masters the French culture, the French language. She knows better the French geography than Moroccan ones. We can read it in the book. And when she comes here and she has all these cliches about the Arabs, the Islam, she is frustrated because she didn't expect to feel like a foreigner and somehow a stranger. So this is it's complicated as an identity, and it's important, and it reminds me of an English written novel called Americana by Ngozi Adichie. The main character, Ifemelu, when she comes from Nigeria to the US, she says, the first time I felt I was black, it was there in the US. And I think there is a parallel between the fact of feeling that we are black in the US and we are Arab in France, because there is this new identity that we put you, and this new identity is not neutral. And the main character Kenza understands it, and she comes from the upper class, but somehow when she comes to France, people thinks that she comes from the Parisian neighborhood. They ask themselves why she speaks so well French. Why does she? So there is this misconception between the Arab identity, which is completely really complex, and the fact that here in France we think about Arabs like disturbers, or so she understands that there is this identity that is not natural. And I think that literature is a safe space where we can understand the complexity of identities. And this author, Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, says it brilliantly. She says literature allows to have complexity and not just one single story, because there is a danger of a single story when we say Arabs are like this, or black are like this, or Jews are like this. We have this danger of the single story, and literature allows to break free from that and to show the complexity, because there are lots of different ways to be this kind of people, and Morocco shows that because it's a mix of culture, of civilization. Lots of Moroccans speak a lot of languages: French, Arabic, Amazigh, Hebrew sometimes. So there is this cultural amazing diversity, and that's why this country is very interesting for me as a writer, because it can show a lot of different things.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hagedorn, and I'm the State Department correspondent at Al Monitor.
And I'm Joe Snell. I'm Al Monitor's video editor. Let's admit it, this past year has been difficult to stay on top of the news and sift through what's accurate and what's misleading. Let Al Monitor help you.
If you like this podcast and care about the Middle East and North Africa, you should consider listening to Al Monitor's other audio series, On the Middle East with Andrew Parasalibi and Amberin Zaman, and On Israel with Ben Caspi. You can subscribe to these series on your favorite podcast platforms.
And through a host of free daily and weekly newsletters, we offer a range of perspectives with the highest journalistic standards. You can subscribe to these newsletters at almonitor.com.
As an award-winning media service headquartered in Washington, D.C., Al Monitor has a network of over 160 contributors around the world.
So if you haven't done so already, be sure to visit almonitor.com, where you can find all of these newsletters and podcasts, along with first-class reporting and analysis.
To go back to the relation between Morocco and France, or to the sort of post-colonial or retro-colonial narrative, which way you will see it, the French government efforts to curb immigration of late have had some sour side effects. For instance, under former President Sarkozy, foreign students were summoned to go back home after they had completed their degree, something that your main character, Kenza, suffers from. She feels that vindication as an offense to her very ideal of French culture, the values of which she's learned to cherish. She is compelled to be stuck in Casablanca, while in her mind she now lives in between the southern and northern shores of the Mediterranean. In a recent journey that I made to Morocco, I was exposed to that resentment against France within the very French-educated elite, all the more so after the signing of the Abraham Accords boosted there a sort of fascination for the US and even for Israel, something which maybe looks strange in retrospect because of the very anti-Israeli and Zionist language of late, including with the number of Moroccan Jews in the present Israeli government, even though we have in France a number of Moroccans, Jews and Muslims in government and a number of institutions, or people from Moroccan descent. How do the characters of your novel, The Hen and Its Cumin, navigate that issue? Or is it that they ultimately discover that they cannot have their cake and eat it too, have both the cumin and the hen?
Yes, my main character, Kenza, like all the French educated elite, knows the French culture by heart. And actually, for them, it's like France is not a foreign country because of the francophonie. And so when they feel not welcomed in France, or worse, not like rejected, sometimes it's that, they feel an identity betrayal. And that's why more and more Moroccan, young Moroccan choose to learn English and not French anymore. And I think it's a very deep and profound subject. There are geostrategic reasons. It's a new world with new imbalances or balances, and both Morocco and France are repositioning internationally. They have this history, and then Morocco, after the independency, I think wanted to. There was a love-hate relationship, as all post-colonial relationships.
And as all old couples.
And as all old couples, and I think France and Morocco are an old couple. But it's very, and that's why the novel is one of the best means to show it. It's about intimacy, identity, and feelings. It's not about rationality. And the thing that when people feel that they are rejected or not welcomed, and this measure I show in the novel is one of them. When people feel like they are rejected, they don't want anymore, and it's not indifference, because before there was love, so I hope there would not be hate, but I think both governments have to work on it actually, to make the people just feel okay with this identity. But I think it's very deep in France because of this votes for the extreme right, the fear of the foreigner, and everything is kind of mixing up, and that's why we need complexity, and that's why we need literature.
Not to forget the rise of Islamism and extremism among the ranks of a number of Muslims themselves.
Both things.
So we have to hope that your novel will display those nightmares, and also hope that it will be soon translated into English.
I hope
and,
so.
And thank you very much. Barakallahu feek.
Lala Zineb. Thanks a lot.
And so this was Reading the Middle East with Gilles Kepel, and looking forward very much to meet you next month with another episode about unfolding events in this complex and fascinating region on El Monitor. Thank you very much. If you have not done so already, please sign up for Reading the Middle East and El Monitor's other podcasts on the Middle East with Andrew Parasiliti and Amberin Zaman, and on Israel with Ben Caspit on your favorite podcast platform.